My name is Sean Blanton. Really excited to be at my third wireless field day presenting to you guys. I know I'm always your favorite topics when we talk. So just a reminder, SE manager for the Western region. My background is security, but I've really found a place and a high interest in a lot of the engagement and social aspects and the analytical aspects of our product suite. I'm also really excited to introduce Corey Klein. Corey Klein, the IT director at Noodles and Company, is a beast. Broke his leg earlier this year, and before I even had a chance to ask him how he was doing, he was already training for another marathon. Corey comes from Noodles and Company. Actually, Corey, maybe we could tell the group a little bit about Noodles and Company.
Yeah, absolutely. We actually operate a number of restaurants now in the California area, but Noodles and Company is a restaurant in the fast casual space, the globally inspired kitchen. If you haven't been to one, either in California or as you're traveling, definitely invite you to take the opportunity. We're operating just over 400 restaurants right now. Had our IPO last June, so just over a year ago. And Sean has some of the other details about the restaurant.
Yeah. So I've had the opportunity to work with Noodles and with Corey really since I started at AirTight. So it's been a little over a year and a half now. And we started just with some base guest Wi-Fi, and Corey will talk a little bit more about that evolution. But this is where we're really going to focus our efforts today. And just as a quick refresher, I know we've talked a lot about social Wi-Fi, and so social Wi-Fi utilizing social media as my entry point into the Wi-Fi network, allowing for social activation, allowing for social engagement. But very much in that world of social media, also enabling some really cool apps. But stay tuned, because that's the next presentation. Corey and I are really going to be talking about this larger idea of engagement Wi-Fi, which is similar, using my guest network, but using it now as an entry point into some specialized program. It's an opportunity for your guests to engage with you through another means, whether it's a loyalty program or some other, as I mentioned, specialized program that we can now communicate and we can talk to each other. And I know the idea is talked about a lot from all different angles. There's a lot of research out there that really talks to where this is and where it's growing. Certainly mobility affects this. This is from an SAP presentation in the UK earlier this year. Just understanding that consumers are moving to this sense of responsiveness, accessibility, looking to be engaged, and the projections of growth in terms of that type of consumer being out there. Accenture does a lot of looks at consumer behavior, how loyalty affects their behavior. A study of 6,000 respondents found 80% of them, this was in the summer of last year, willing or would definitely use these personalized promotions to them. Even Forrester, these leading industry watchers who are looking at the effects of loyalty and the willingness of individuals to share information for faster, better services, for access to loyalty programs. There's lots out there, and this is by no means a condensed list. So I encourage you, if you're, check out these sources. Hit me up on Twitter if you're interested in seeing what these sources are. We'll share them all. I'm actually having a web series starting next week. We'll be diving really deep into these topics. So, there's my shameless plug. I encourage you to check it out. Today, we're going to be talking about what's actually happening and what Corey and I have been able to put together with help, of course, and working with Noodles. It all started with association analytics. So again, Corey and I have been working together for some time. Corey, maybe you could talk a little bit about why you first engaged with AirTight.
Yeah, well, for starters, the genesis of our relationship was really the classic. Well, for me, it was a double play. But really, we had a security need related to PCI, as we're a retailer or a restaurant, that we hadn't yet addressed, related to wireless IDS and IPS. That wasn't the first item that I talked about when pitching into the organization, because we had what seemed to be a complementary need that could be satisfied by the same solution, really to offer Wi-Fi to our guests. And so it was very easy to talk to the organization about the opportunity to add something new, make it available to our guests, and also address this pretty much non-negotiable security need. My focus when looking for a solution, though, we realized early on that we were going to be making an investment not just of dollars, but of time and effort to physically put an infrastructure in place. And whenever we're doing that, especially in the restaurant industry and the margins and growth and efficiency we try to operate, any thought to being able to use that infrastructure and leverage that physical investment and of time for anything else definitely is attractive. And so, that was the longer term vision with respect to AirTight, which, and there are probably a number of avenues that we haven't even explored yet, but what Sean and I will talk about is really starting to leverage the third step in that.
Yeah, so we had an opportunity as these elements of the AirTight solution have evolved, and the end of last summer, Corey gives me a call and he says, "Hey, those association analytics you were talking to me about, these anonymous foundational analytics, just looking at connections," and he says, "Can you help me understand net new users? On any given day, how many people are seeing the Wi-Fi network for the very first time?" And I thought, that's really cool. I hadn't thought about that yet. And this is what resulted in that. It was the month of August. I've blocked out the actual numbers just out of respect for Noodles and their data, but we found that over the course of the month, we started to normalize a little bit, and we were looking at double-digit net new on average per location. And as you saw, at this point, we're working with about 350 stores. So at the same time, I go back to Corey and I say, "Here's the information." He says, "Cool, I'll give you a call in a little bit." And it was a couple months later, but during that time, talk a little bit about what's going on the side of Noodles.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things that we hear from a lot of our guests, we have a very right now very basic call it guest engagement platform, or it's really just we call it the eClub. It's an email database. But what we actually have heard from a lot of our guests, and with our restaurant model, we don't do a lot of mass media. We do a lot of local relationship marketing, and our focus is really on in the local markets we serve, doing things that are going to be meaningful to the community. We do a lot of benefit events with local organizations and things like that, and the way that we communicate about a lot of that and let people know what's going on in the restaurant, or new menu items, or recognizing somebody for their birthday, is through email. And a number of our guests that become members of that eClub, what they end up telling us is, "Hey, this is really great. Wish I had known about it sooner." There are certainly things on people's tables that tell them, "Hey, go home and sign up," but nobody ever really does that. And so we had been investigating other ways to make it more known to people that this was an opportunity if they wanted to be able to communicate with us. And a lot of the ideas that we talked about required training the ambassadors in our restaurants. They required additional labor. They required a new interaction. And so the reason I asked Sean about the association analytics was I knew very easily from looking at our AirTight console that a whole lot of people were connecting to and using the Wi-Fi. What I really wanted to know before I went and worked with our marketing department and some of other departments was how many new people over the course of a month and then 2 months and 3 months, how many new people, so that their first time connecting to the Wi-Fi, I could give them the opportunity right there without jumping in their face and interrupting their meal or otherwise, just give them the opportunity to join the eClub. I suspected it was a large opportunity, but I didn't know that, and I didn't want to go share this great idea that really wouldn't have any gravity. And clearly we saw that there was a significant opportunity. It was a large pool basically in which to fish.
Yeah, and so beginning of this year, again, I get that call. It says, "All right, let's get down to brass tacks." And with the help of Costube, Kieran, other members of our engineering team, we work with the CRM technology that supports Noodles, and we're able to create our new engagement platform, utilizing the Wi-Fi network to encourage people to enroll, to at least ask them if they want to, and put that in line for a service they'd already come to expect. And so let's see it already. So give me a second here.
Hey, a quick question while you're getting that set up.
Yes.
There. First of all, if you can bring back the chili cheese mac, I would be a very happy camper.
Amen.
Second, and the main actual question here is, did you have a previous model, were you getting data already from an ISP provided model that was just like the CSV dump of here's unique clients that were coming in? Because I see a lot of times when I talk to restaurant chains especially, they're getting that CSV dump file from the AT&Ts or whoever's their circuit provider, and marketing is just looking at it saying, what the heck do I do with this? Were you guys already getting something that then marketing maybe was shy of okay, you're going to present me a new technology model here to try to get information about who's in our restaurants, but this old system was complete junk because I don't know how to interpret the data. Did you have any challenges there?
We really didn't, but that was because we didn't have a solution for connectivity prior to, or at least we didn't have a system-wide solution for connectivity prior to AirTight.
What about like transactional data, like credit card, like unique credit card numbers, things along those lines? The data that you're already processing through, just by matter of transaction.
We definitely have. We don't look at and classify it by the credit card number for some more detailed reasons, but we have all the transactional data from the point of sale for sure. One of the things very important to our brand is, if you've been into one of our restaurants, we refer to it as Your World Kitchen. And we really, in the fast casual space, this is how we connect with our guests. We cook every dish to order, and we really want people to feel comfortable staying in the restaurant, having a meal that meets their personal tastes. And so our focus really hasn't been when it comes to engagement. I'm not sure if this quite gets at your question, but when it comes to engagement, our focus isn't really on being able to mine people's transactional data and then subvert their experience. It's more about we really want a personalized experience for them as well when it comes to the engagement, which is because it aligns with our brand. And that's why we want to offer the opportunity for people to join this very basic right now e-club. They also tell us their favorite restaurant when they do that. And so we can just share with them information about what's going on in that restaurant. Really kind of keeping it focused on just the higher level interaction and their preferences, as opposed to as interesting as a technology guy and a math major, as interesting as really understanding the detailed transactions and some of the algorithms. It's far too big brother for our concept, I guess.
Fair enough.
So what you can see here, if you were following along while Corey was talking, I've connected to my access point, and I have been brought to my splash page. And what we're seeing here is very simply information about the eClub and the ability to join it as a means to connect to the Wi-Fi, and as is typical as we see, or just enter Wi-Fi. There's a lot of talk about paid versus not paid, and it can be looked at in very binary terms. And I really feel like it certainly doesn't have to be that way, and quite frankly, I don't really think it is that way. There are certain models where, yes, you pay to play, and it's been that way for a while, and obviously we're all thinking hotels. That's really where you see that. But in these newer venues where, again, it's not pay to play, it's not join to get on, it is, here is something that you might find interesting, and here's a way to get access to it. So I'm not going to just enter the Wi-Fi, I want to join up. We recognized that there were just a small amount of information we needed to create that profile. Makes the process very simple for the consumer. I'm going to connect right now. So someone give me a first name.
Blake.
All right. How about a last name?
Awesome.
Blake Awesome.
Totally a fake.
All right, so we'll just get our email going. And we'd like a Cupertino.
You've got a.
Oh, it'd be nice if I could spell. I think I might have timed out while we were talking. Second here. All right, let's try that again. All right. So I'm on, and I'm enjoying my noodle dish, and I am now browsing the internet. And what's really key here is that, and this building on what Costa was talking about, that API. So when we were first talking about this, and Costa and I were looking at some of the additions to our guest manager, and we're thinking SMS and guest book and web form, we're like, can we post to other systems? Costa says, hold on for a second, because our API is going to facilitate that flow of information. So while the GMS supports that splash page, it is talking directly to the Noodles backend, such that I have instant access. And as you can see here, Blake Awesome is now a member of the Noodlegram, and we'll be receiving that Noodlegram. And we'll get the encouragement to, hey, fill out some other information if you'd like, so we can learn a bit more about you, and to Corey's point, give you the information that you're really looking for. And so that API is really helping us to get that all the way through. So while I have just a little bit of time left, what I want to do is talk to you about some of the success. So let's get this back up and running. All right. Ah, jeez.
So the numbers you were getting earlier on new clients, is that based on probes of customers coming into your store and just kind of sitting down, or is that people connecting to your network and things?
Those were actually connections.
Okay.
Yeah, people actually connecting to, not just being visible.
So you're collecting their MAC addresses, and then if you see a new MAC address, then it's popping up in that field as first-time connectors, I imagine?
Yeah, Sean, you're more sophisticated about this than I am. You were looking at MAC address, right?
Yeah, so when we look at our anonymous analytics, I'm sorry guys, I'm having projector problems here. We're looking at, yes, the MAC address is the, let's call it the core point. Always when we look at this information, we look at it from the context of, we look at it in the context of anonymous. So when we pull that information out, or we look at it through dashboards, it's all hashed because it is at that point just a data point. It's not a person, it's not a device. It is simply someone who's connected and has given us this information about that connection. So, sorry guys, my machine's not playing nice, so.
Well, real quick question on that. You know, with iOS 8, we have these anonymous probes. You know, I'm curious, and I've posed this question to other folks that are doing analytics. How does that impact, right? You know, you're seeing, what was the number? It was hundreds.
Yeah, I get a couple hundred in my home system that just skyrockets.
Yeah, so what's that do to your numbers?
Yeah, so I'll let those guys talk about that. If they want to address it now, or if they want to address it.
Yeah, so these are all associations you mentioned.
All associations.
So for that, it doesn't impact, right? As you can see. So at least for this conversation, this is all single MAC address. For monitoring devices, I think it's a separate topic. I don't want to eat his time out, but that's a short answer. Thank you.
Yeah. So, Cor, with some of the couple minutes we have left, I'd love to hear success. So this for you guys, and I'm gonna apologize for the presentation issues. This is actually a pull from our guest managers. So we've got a new facelift. Happy to take you all through it at some point. Again, I've blocked the numbers out of respect for Noodles, but this is actually over the course of about 11 weeks we've had this live. We're seeing our just give me Wi-Fi and people who want to enroll.
Yeah, so I'm not, I'm by no means a marketing expert, but I enjoy just a really strong relationship with the team that we have at Noodles and Company in the marketing area. They're really stellar, and I really enjoy kind of the focus they bring to it. And before, as we started this, I asked them what would be a good success rate. So we have all these people connecting to our Wi-Fi, and some of them are going to take the opportunity to also sign up for the e-club or the Noodlegram. What would be a good success rate? And realizing it's not apples to apples, because every different marketing strategy kind of is its own animal. But they said, hey, you know, traditionally 1 to 3%. And so I thought, all right, 1%. I want to beat 1%. 3 would be great. And so Sean had that graph up there, and really, you know, what we saw, what we've seen over now, a little over 60 days, is a little over 12, but around 12.5, 12.4% of people are choosing not just to sign into the Wi-Fi, but also to join the e-club. One of the immediate questions we asked, because our e-club was already relatively large, was, hey, how many of those people, just to, you know, in the interest of fairness, how many of those people are already members of the e-club? Turns out very, very few of them. So 12% of it was actually 12% of the people that are connecting and joining the e-club are new. And what that did was, on any given month, it doubled the number of people that have been joining our e-club, and just a lot of positive feedback about it. And interestingly enough, and this is partially a product of the sign-in page that we at Noodles had before for the Wi-Fi. But the sign-in page that we have now is actually much more user-friendly. That's not, you know, a direct credit necessarily to, hey, this new program, but we improved the sign-in page at the same time, so it's faster to get in, gives people an opportunity, if they like it, to connect more with our brand, which is getting us positive feedback. And 12% is 4 times 3%, so you know, we're all like, it's great.
I have a question. Do you also track how often people come back? And you have still the same MAC addresses, you have the same information.
Yeah.
Do you track return customers? Because I think that would have a better ROI for your giving away free Wi-Fi if if you can show that there's repeat customers.
We've really just started to look at that. I've been looking at it because it's for 2 years now because it's interesting to me. As we partnered with marketing on this, we took a platform that's traditionally just a technology geek thing, and our marketing team has become very interested in it as well, and so they've started to ask a lot of those questions. Really, that's over the last honestly couple of weeks. How frequently are a lot of these people coming back? But it's a fun conversation, and it's again kind of strengthened that partnership.
Data point to support why taking it as a cost, both ongoing and capital.
Yeah.
And you need to show what kind of returns you get.
Well, and even more interesting would be how many of those return folks have signed up for the eClub, and are you actually mapping that eClub account, if you will, that username or email address to somebody's MAC address, or even multiple MAC addresses?
Yeah, and at this point we haven't, but we've been talking about marrying up that data. Sure.
Yeah, so there's other technologies involved that can bring that together. There's things that we have coming down the road, which will help to get those insights at the very least. And we do have a lot of other cool graphs that actually one does show some loyalty elements. And a lot of times it was just playing with the data. You got lots of it, and slicing and dicing and looking in different ways, you can dig in some new insights that you may not have thought of before and aren't always pretty and on the interface, but if you get down dirty, you can get some really cool info.
Another question. So if I go into Noodles and I sit down and I want nothing to do with this, can I still use the Wi-Fi?
Yeah, you click the link on the bottom. You click the second link.
Check it out. If you want to sign and click.
People agreed with you. 88% of their people agreed with you.
87.36.
Yeah, so that's our we call it our click-through plugin. It is pure anonymous, accept the terms, go through just like you would if it was just set accept
the
terms
rest
to go
of my
through.
question is there like performance penalty or
Nope.
different rules for the opt-outers than the opt-inners?
No, it really we didn't view this, and we don't view it as a proving whether you're a good guest or not. Really, it was the genesis of this was the feedback that from a lot of people saying, hey, we really like being part of the eClub. We wish we had known about it sooner. So we thought, hey, here's just one way to let people know about it that is more hospitable, I would say, which is aligned with our brand. Myself and a number of other people, as we thought about the ways to increase the visibility of it, so many of them were just an interruption. I don't want, if I'm ordering this dish that I'm very excited about, I don't want somebody also asking me for my email address or shoving a piece of paper in my face that I'm going to forget or that's going to be a waste of resources, or walking around, here's the worst one, and I have experienced this in other restaurants in particular, where someone might just happen to be walking around with a tablet. You're enjoying your meal, and they're like, "Hey, would you like to join up?" You have a shocked look on your face, but that kind of stuff happens. Would you like to join this thing? Well, first of all, I don't.
No.
As a technology person for the company, I don't want the grubby hands touching it. But the tablet, but it's an interruption. So this was just a really low impact way to kind of capitalize on that opportunity people were asking about.
So you clearly take a hospitable first approach to your Wi-Fi infrastructure, which prompts the question of how do you handle abuse? Because invariably, with a friendly infrastructure where you're trying to be sort of open doors about it all, what about neighbors? What about the kids across the street jumping on the Wi-Fi? What about
Does a session timeout
poor
more
performing
often?
clients? And, things impacting
Not-
Wi-Fi performance, things like that.
We have the basic timeouts built in, and and then a few for poor performing clients. We've worked with the AirTight folks to just make sure we have the system tuned to accommodate that. Honestly, if someone
Though.
what?
Generally not an issue, though.
It really hasn't been an issue. We don't, if there happens to be somebody who stays for a little while longer and reconnects to it, we're fine with that. It doesn't happen all that often. I know that's always the fear with Wi-Fi in retail and in restaurant spaces, and myself and a number of my peers have never believed that's true until we implemented this solution. I didn't have a way to check it. But when you look at the association times and the frequency of devices reconnecting, so few out of hundreds of thousands of connections do that it's just, we haven't seen any real abuse.
It's refreshing to hear because so many people are battling that. How do I handle public Wi-Fi today, whether it's healthcare or hotels or whatever? And there's this need to want to tie that back, and there's a need to like hold the keys to the kingdom, right? I'm not going to give you something unless you give me something in exchange. And it's sort of refreshing to hear that reverse approach, and to hear that it's not being overtly taken advantage.
Well, we have a way to watch it. I mean, and you know, if hopefully that never becomes, it never switches the other way, but it just hasn't proven true for us.
And I'd like the 12% was a good thing for them.
Yeah.
It doubled their E-rate.
Yeah.
So, last time we were here, you talked about some tracking of anonymous just based on MAC addresses.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tie that to? My thought is, someone walks past your store, doesn't come in, doesn't join, or they come in, don't get on the Wi-Fi. Can you track to see if that same MAC address came back and they actually joined the Wi-Fi to get some pickup ratio?
Well, so when we look at at these anonymous analytics, we do separate them presence and association. So I absolutely could create two tables or open up two files, merge the data together, and see even though it's a hashed MAC, it will hash the same way. Right? And to date, my presence MAC, the MAC I probe with, is the same that I connect with. I know that there's some changes going on there, but to date, that's the way that exists. So yes, I could. It would take a little bit of rolling the sleeves up, and if I were to do it, I would have two tables and run some joins on those tables to see if there is a correlation there.
I was just thinking from the marketing, if you wanted to try some signage issues, and by changing signage at these three stores versus those three stores, we got that people
flip.
Walking by to being inside at some number, which would help with the marketing.
And we actually do see that in the field today, and that's we call it capture. It's using RSSI as a threshold, and we can see how many clients or which clients pass that threshold. Because I'll mark the closest point you got to that access point, which means because it's not moving, you should have a theoretical zone that if you pass through it, it means that they've walked inside.